Let's talk about some of your recent personnel decisions at the state level. Last week, you fired Jessica Camphy, the person in charge of public defenders, replaced her with an interim director. Why'd you make that move?
Well, we have a public defense crisis in the state. We have about 4,000 individuals who are now involved in the justice system who need a public defender and do not have it. And that is bad for the victims, it's bad for community safety, and it's bad for those individuals who are kind of in limbo without a public defender. We have a constitutional obligation to provide a public defender. So think about it, right? Someone is accused of a crime and they literally are waiting to have their case continue until they get a public defender. Folks with really serious crimes, I think they're trying to prioritize, but you have a lot of individuals who are waiting, and the victims who are also waiting for justice, everybody's on hold. We have to have public defenders to represent these individuals.
You also changed leadership at the Oregon State Hospital in Salem after an unexpected patient death in March. We've since learned that 21 patients have died in the state hospital since 2020. Do you think patients there are at risk? And what needs to be fixed at the Oregon State Hospital?
Well, for me, the safety of the individuals at the state hospital is the #1 goal. And because of the recent death, I want to make sure that we are following every policy and protocol that we can to ensure the safety of the individuals who are there. And I wanted to make sure that we had a plan. It was important for me to get some new leadership there. The director who was there resigned. We're on a 30-day plan trying to figure out what needs to be fixed faster, because the folks who are there are very vulnerable. They need the best quality care. Deaths are unacceptable. These are very acute individuals. They have a lot going on, but it's our job as a state to make sure they are taken care of.
You are asking for the state to spend more than $2 billion on housing. And there are bills in the legislature, including House Bill 2138, which would expand housing options. How confident are you that your housing agenda will get through this legislative session intact?
Well, what's good about housing and also serving folks who are unsheltered and dealing with our homelessness crisis is there's good bipartisan support that we need to continue to make progress. When I came into office, I set some very clear goals in my first day actually on the job, saying we need to invest now, we have to have specific outcomes about new shelter beds, rehousing people, keeping people from becoming homeless, and we hit all those markers, right? But the job's not done, and so I am asking for a significant investment in housing and homelessness because it's the #1 issue for the state. I traveled to every county in my first year, was back to a third of those counties my second year. Housing is the biggest topic for every community. So what I would like to say is don't think of it about a big number with no details. It adds up to that number, but it's very clear about here's what we need to continue to serve our unhoused neighbors with very specific outcomes. Here's what we need to build more housing. You know, we need hundreds of millions of dollars to build more housing. We need infrastructure. I have a particular bill that says we need a program that says for $100 million, we can get more water, sewer, and sidewalks built so more housing can get built. It's a combination of things that all put together reaches that number, but it's about specific outcomes. It's not a blank check to go do whatever. It's like we need to do all of these different things to get more housing built and to serve people who are living on the streets.
Of course, homelessness affects the entire state, but the problem is most acute in Portland and Multnomah County, as you know. Multnomah County recently released its data dashboard. It shows nearly 15,000 people homeless in Multnomah County, 6,600 unsheltered, much higher than the numbers we've seen with the point-in-time counts that we've had from Multnomah County in the past. What did you think when you saw those numbers?
Well, it was helpful to know that we have better data about the individuals who need service, because when you know more about them and how long they're being served, you can serve them better. So I appreciate the county's work there. I think Portland in particular is starting to feel better. I think we see less folks living outside, but there are still a lot of people outside. And a lot of people are in the new shelter beds that we have made happen, right? So how do you get those folks to more stability, to get them into housing? Because that's the ultimate goal. We have a challenge in Portland. We are making progress, and we are going to have to continue to work hard. I continue to meet with the city and the county on a regular basis to say, what are our goals, what are we going to do, what are we buying for that money, and how do we get people into stability and housing. And I am pleased with the coordinated effort because it's actually showing results on the streets.
How happy have you been, just to expand upon that, with what the new mayor, Mayor Keith Wilson, is doing on the issue of homelessness, as well as Jessica Vega-Peterson, the chair of Multnomah County, who has honestly come under some criticism for how she has handled this?
Yep. Well, all three of us share the same value of we need to get people into housing. Mayor Wilson has come on very strong in his first couple months in office, very specific. He wants more nighttime shelter beds. He wants more day centers where people can be during the day instead of having to be on the sidewalk. I really appreciate his passion and level of detail. I think what we're seeing from the chair is the evolution of a plan that has been put in place, and more things are coming together, like the database that you just talked about. We have a better handle on what's happening. And what I just had a meeting the other day with both of them. There is a unified discussion happening today about what additional dollars the city and the county will need to continue to make progress. And so I know there are budget difficulties at both the city and the county. And as the governor, I want the state to be a partner, because as Portland goes, as Multnomah County goes, so does the rest of the state. So we have to stay focused on helping them be successful.
Do we have the capacity to deal with this problem? If we look at the database that was just released, the dashboard, it seems like we take a step forward and then a step back in terms of the number of people entering homelessness. What about that part of the equation?
Well, I think what you see in the new numbers is that the front door coming into homelessness is still happening. And that goes to the affordability of housing and the availability of housing in Multnomah County. So I've been clear with the city and the county that we need to get more housing built. We're focused on that as well, because at the end of the day, when people can't afford their housing, they're going to end up on the streets. So we're seeing more of that. We have more to work to do there. But I want to take a step back. If you think about the scale of the problem in the city of Portland, which was really exacerbated by the pandemic, right? We had folks who were experiencing unsheltered homelessness, the pandemic hit, and then a lot of people came into Portland. They are disproportionately impacted by this issue, and that's why so many resources are necessary to get them ahead of the challenge they're facing. But if you look at Washington County and Clackamas County, because of the coordinated efforts that they have put together with the Metro dollars, they're in Washington County, they're at functional zero. Right? There are still some folks who are unsheltered outside, but they have done such a good job of meeting the need and building more beds and more services that they are very close to meeting the need in their community. Their scale of the problem was different than Multnomah County and Portland. So what I'm doing is Portland needs more focus, Multnomah County needs more focus. And I've been very clear with folks. Every dollar we spend has to be designated for an outcome, and we have to know if we're meeting our goals. We can't just put money at this. We need to know what we're spending it on and what we're trying to achieve. And if we're not getting there, then we need to reset. We've been very clear with the city and county. We need them to perform together to solve the problem.
Let's talk about baseball. The Oregon Senate.
Did you know I played Little League? I like baseball.
I did not know you
I
played
was
Little
a
League.
shortstop. Yeah.
Oh, very good. That's good to know. The Oregon Senate passed Senate Bill 110. That would issue $800 million in bonds to help build a stadium for Major League Baseball if we get awarded a franchise. They say that the bonds will be paid back by taxes on player and employee salaries if we get awarded the franchise. Yes. That is the if. If this passes the House and it gets to your desk, would you sign Senate Bill 110? And what do you think about the possibility of baseball?
I am supportive of the legislation because, to remind folks, this is a law that's been on the books for a while. This bill just resets it at a different number because it got a little stale in the current statute. But it's a creative and innovative way to say when, because I'm hoping we get baseball in Portland, when we get that, the folks who are paying higher salaries because they are in baseball, their dollars will go to support bonding, to support the construction of that stadium. It's a creative way to deal with it.
Thank you, Governor Kotek. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.